All right, I want to welcome everyone on to the first episode of Soul Impact and How Music Saved Us. Our guest today is my good friend Bubba Startz. So basically, what we're going to do here today, Bubba, I'm just going to have you tell a little bit about yourself and basically how you got into music and how you know just introduce yourself, and we're just kind of go from there.
Awesome, man. Well, my name is Bubba Startz. I am a songwriter. I am a podcaster, also a husband and father as well. And I grew up around music. I've been writing songs since I was a teenager or before. I've been playing guitar since I was about 12 years old. Before that, I played, drums in concert band, and I played the bass for a year in jazz band. So music for the last, 27 years or so has been a huge part of my life and a big part of my family as well. Grandma had sheet music and her accordion out around Christmas time. My dad's a guitar player. I had an uncle that plays guitar as well. So, kind of always surrounded by music. I've always been a singer, even since just learning how to talk. Right. Family shares memories of me singing, 3, 4 years old, singing to grandpa. And yeah, it's just always, it's never left, right? That love and that passion for music and making music just never left me. And now it's become a career and something that I get to continue to do and now help promote others. So,
All right, well, we had a chance to talk quite a bit out the festival we just did together, and I got to hear about, a little bit about your stuff. So why don't you tell us kind of what you got going on right now?
well, currently I am the content creator of the year for the Midwest Country Music Organization. We won that award back in April for our podcast called The Scene Projects. The Scene Projects is focused on supporting and promoting independent artists, mostly focused on the Midwest United States, kind of from the Canadian border all the way down I-29, I-35 to the Gulf of America, right? And everywhere in between. And this last, couple of months, I've literally been from Duluth, Minnesota, all the way to Austin, Texas, and spending a little time out in Missouri in the Ozarks and around, Arkansas and all over. Iowa's been real good to us. We were just in Iowa last weekend, right across the river from Omaha, Nebraska, there in Council Bluffs. And we're just using this opportunity that the award has given us to really step out of our comfort zone locally here in South Dakota and to expand our horizons, to use that award-winning podcast as a great avenue to open some doors for us where we didn't stand out from the crowd before. And now that we have achieved that status, we were really setting out to further set ourselves apart from everyone by how we serve our community. It's not about Bubba Startz here at the Scene Projects. It's about all of these amazing artists that surround not just me, but they're surrounding you too. They're in the backwoods as well.
Yeah. And I noticed veterans are pretty important. I noticed you do some stuff with the veterans as well. Do a lot of support with that. You want to kind of touch base on some of that as well?
Yeah, I would love to. So, Operation Combating Veteran Suicide is our nonprofit partner. That is our Mrs. South Dakota International, Charlotte Rupp. She's become a fast friend here the last couple of months, and we're now assisting them in raising money for a real mission. 22 veterans a day, and probably more than that now, are committing suicide. And as Americans, we find this statistic to be absolutely horrifying, to be losing that many of our former service members. It just absolutely heartbreaking for us and for Charlotte as well. She's always been a big supporter of veterans through work through veterans of associations and veterans affairs groups, and even through an organization and a program like No Veteran Dies Alone. So she's literally been the last person that some of these aging veterans have sat and held their hand as they passed. And now with her platform raising with the Mrs. South Dakota beauty pageant and the international beauty pageants now, to build a bigger platform for her cause. And now with OCVS, as it is referred to by us, we're able to do just that. So the big goal this year is to raise $500,000 as the seed money for transitional housing apartment complexes. I'm not sure exactly how many units will be in these, but to actually get boots on the ground, as it were, to help these veterans, to give them a place to land, maybe coming out of Domisary. A lot of her veterans are coming out of. They're coming out of substance abuse programs or mental health programs, and we're there to help them get back on their feet and to rebuild a life and to continue this mission well into the future, right? This isn't just a this year kind of job. This is something that's going to continue to grow as we find more veterans and find more needs inside of the community that need to be addressed.
And that's awesome because, as you know, as someone that supports veterans myself, a lot of times they come home and they lose their support system while they're over there, and so I want to thank you for joining up with her and advocating for them because sometimes they don't have enough voice. And you're right, the number of how many commit suicide a week or a day, that's unreal, and it's sad that they don't place higher on the help. You know, they're the reason why we get to celebrate, Independence Day. So it's coming up around the corner. So so I just wanted to kind of touch base on some of the stuff you were doing, which I personally knew quite a bit of it because we've talked, but I just kind of wanted to put it out there. So now we're going to dive in some questions I got kind of stored up in my head. So the biggest thing is, you said music's always kind of been there. I mean, I'm sure you've had some hard times, whether it's, I've heard your story, and I'm not asking you to go in depth by any means, and if you choose to go in depth, that's on you. But just kind of tell you about a little bit about your background and where you have come from, like, because we talked at Vibe Fest about how you've had quite a bit of struggles yourself, and so just if you don't mind, kind of hit base on that for me.
Yeah, well, and through all of those struggles, right, the one constant has been music. And when it wasn't a pillar of my existence, I found myself in a lot more trouble. So a lot of what I feel like you're referring to is the obvious, the prison time, but there was a lot of lead up to that. Music has always opened doors for me, whether that be at a house party or with a girl or with a a new group of people. Music has always been the way that I have connected. I was in Mexico for a year, and I learned there that music is a universal language. It doesn't matter what is your primary language. Music speaks, and it communicates feelings. And I actually have a shirt that said music is what feelings sound like. And we kind of embody that. We live by that. When I was a young man, 18, 19 years old, and really just beginning my adult journey, the guitar was it was my best friend. It was my only companion out on the road. So not only was it a means for feeding myself, right? It was a means of income, even as being, a busker on the streets of, Venice Beach, on the boardwalk down there, or really anywhere else that I found myself. But it was also a door opener to communities, right? I could show up anywhere, kind of find where people were hanging out, bust out the guitar and start singing. And I was going to make some friends real quick. And, you kind of saw that play out at Vibe Fest much of the same way, right? Where
Oh,
all of a
for
sudden
sure.
a guy's playing some music that everybody can vibe to, and you've kind of got that cred now, right? That credibility. Oh, hey, you must be a good guy because you wouldn't have all this passion and all of this talent if you were a shithead. And I'm sorry for cussing on your show.
No, you're
Um,
good, buddy. You're good.
but yeah, so music has always been that. And beyond that, it's always been how I've kind of gotten my feelings and communicated my feelings, maybe even with myself, right? Not just with the world, but how I'm getting out these complex emotions and laying it all out there, whether it's on paper or now so much as in a digital medium. But It's always been just that, my best friend, my confidant, my companion. Music has always been there, and I'm very blessed to have talent, to have a talent for playing music. And it came from a lot of dedicated hours as a younger man that I kind of learned how to play guitar. Those years in high school where I was trapped out in the woods, most of the summer, and I didn't really have anything to do. That gave me the freedom to just really hone in on this instrument that was giving me the opportunity to express myself.
So, I mean, another thing I noticed, kind of with you is it's not just music to you. Um, I've noticed this from day one of meeting you. When you take that stage, or whether from day one of setting up lights and having music on the background, it's the heart you put into everything you do. And that's one thing I've noticed with you is that whether you're helping me with sound or interacting with people, you put your heart into everything. And I'm sure being a writer, I mean, that's where you get a lot of raw feelings out. Am I right about that?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of songs that I've written have come with tears soaking the pages, right? I'm getting out, a girlfriend leaves you when you're 18, 19 years old and moves back 1,000 miles across the country. That's going to leave a scar, right? And I don't necessarily want to carry that scar with me. And that's kind of what music has become, is that the songs are kind of the scars, right? The living, the experience has left a mark, and the song is kind of the impression that mark is, right? If the experience is the stamp, well, then the song is the ink, right? And leaving that impression on the paper. So
Yeah,
it
almost. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good.
Um, Almost your way of telling your story. I mean, I've heard some of the stuff you write, but also I've heard you do covers. I mean, and as far as even when you do the covers, you put your own twist on it. You don't you put your own little twist on whatever you play, whether it's you know, we heard some Jimmy Buffett. You made it your own. So, and then plus I seen you encourage other artists, like, and that's why I wanted you to give you the honor of being the first guest on this thing, because you're kind of helped driving this horse a little bit, kind of helped pushing me in the right direction.
It's more of a pull. I'm putting the carrot out there and letting the horse make up its own mind.
Well, I'm just trying to find that water, okay? But yeah, so I noticed, if there's something for a young adult or an adult, someone in general struggling, um, what advice would you give them about music and using music as a tool to save them out of their darkest situations?
Right. Well, and I think that music does that regardless. I think, especially as young people, we are all influenced by the music that's around us, and that kind of gives us our base and informs us of how the world works. I think I think you can tell a lot of who a person is by the music that they listen to as well, and what they're listening to currently. And so it's kind of expounding on that. Okay. Know what music is. It is a portal. It is a timestamp. It is all of those things, right? And it can be anything that you want to make it. I believe that, musical expression, whether you're writing lyrics or a song, or you're using AI to write beats and to do this, I think it's so important for people to be able to kind of get out these complex thoughts and to put them into a song in some way or form, right? My process is, obviously with the guitar, but I've seen what it's done for friends that aren't musically gifted, to use AI to build out a thing and to watch them kind of get that elation of like, oh my God, I made this. And it's like, well, you kind of half made it, but I'm not going to take that away from you. I'm not going to take that away from you because it was still your feelings that was the spark to that whole thing, right? So I don't want to demean anyone who is putting that out there, regardless of the medium that they're using to accomplish the goal. I think creative expression is so important to us because it informs ourselves. It informs us more of ourselves. And then the world can kind of look at that expression and go, oh, I vibe with that, or I don't vibe with that. And I heard something so poignant. I was at a business conference, probably 7-8 months ago now. And the one of the keynote speakers, he was an actor, and he was kind of coming to this space of, being yourself from that realm. And he shared something with us there that one of his early acting coaches had shared. And it was like, walking into a audition, and we kind of equate this to our whole lives now, right? And kind of take the analogy that way. But, 30% of the people are going to like you. They're going to like you just because you remind them of someone that they love, because of whatever reason, right? 30% are just going to vibe with you. And then there's another 30% that are just not, right? They're just not going to, for whatever reason, you remind them of an ex-wife, right? Or an ex-husband, or, and I think we can both, having exes ourselves, could speak to that, right?
Right.
And then there's 30% that just don't care. And the moral of the story was like, just go find your 30% and dig into those people. And you don't necessarily have to worry about the other 5% of the people that just don't care who you are or what you do for whatever reason. Those reasons are their own. There are 8 billion plus people on this planet. You're never going to please everybody. So go find that 30%, right? And I think a great way of finding those people is creative expression. Write, do art, make music, and express yourself in those ways. And you're going to find those people so much faster than if you were just trying to explain your thoughts with conversation, right? Conversation can only take you so far. And you actually kind of alluded to this a lot already, is that like art is heart, right? Art comes from a different place than up here. Anyone can kind of sit in a conversation and BS you for a few hours or a few minutes. When you lay it on that paper and you're expressing yourself, whether it's through song or art or prose or whatever it is, you're revealing something a lot deeper of yourself. And I guess that would kind of be my advice to young people, is that like before life beats you down, learn how to do some art. Be comfortable doing art. Like, be comfortable being really bad at it at first, right? Like, get comfortable sucking at stuff, because everybody sucks at it when they're starting something new. No one falls into something and is a pro. It just doesn't happen. So accept that and then just go do art. Just go do it and keep doing it. When you find something that tickles your fancy, right? Something that strikes that chord inside of you, then go do it. And that could be running sound, right? That could be being the man behind the soundboard like you are, and finding your passion inside of that. That's an art form, right? And serving others. And I think you're going to pull yourself out. People are going to pull you out of those funks, right? Like, we don't pull ourselves out of them. We find the people that help us pull ourselves out of that. And I think that's what's most important for this generation now, because they're so disconnected in a physical way from other human beings, that we need art more than ever.
Oh, 100. I 100% agree. I mean, and like you kind of touched base on the running sound. I mean, and I'm sure you've dealt with this, where someone comes along like that has more experience, and says, "Hey, let's take it over here. Let's tune it here or whatever." And I'm sure you've had that impact in your career. So sometimes it's how they come at you. If they come at you rude, And like you said, you have that 30% that just don't care, so they're going to come at you however. So you have them people that come at you like a junkyard dog. We'll just call it that, you know. And then you have them people that come at you and they're encouraging. So for me, I can speak personally that them people that come at you and they're encouraging and they're helping build you up and take your career further, like you said, sound or with your career as in as an artist. I mean, um, is there a one person that comes to mind that probably encouraged you the most when you were starting out?
I, you know, there's a lot of friends early on, right? My dad played and kind of gave me that initial push, I guess, right? They put a guitar in my hands and he was like, "You're going to play in my band." So maybe even though it was a little like selfishly motivated on his end because they needed another guitar player, it was still really cool to get to have that experience with my dad and to kind of be thrown into the fire very early. I didn't have like a warm up period. I learned 3 chords, and next thing you know, I was on stage, right? Like I've grown up and I've learned how to play guitar on the stage. So sharing in that way is just it's so natural to me because it's all I've done. Literally for a quarter of a century now, I've just been doing kind of the same thing and living a life around that same thing. And undoubtedly along the way, you meet people that influence you. One shout out, Pat Milos, my dad's bandmate, bass player. Still to this day, him and my dad get together and play music. But he was someone who was really like, "Look, man, you don't have to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect anyway. Just go have fun." You know? And I think that was really key to me early on. I think I forgot that along the ways, you know, not being around other mentors because I had started so early. By the time I was 19, 20, I had 5, 6 years experience, right? So I really wasn't in the same place that a lot of 18, 19-year olds, you know, just graduating high school are like, "Oh, I'm going to start a band with my buddies." I've already been playing with guys that were 40, 50 years old for multiple years at that point. I was used to a much different situation. So I've kind of always had those mentors. And, you know, now, even at only 39, I find myself in a really cool position to mentor that younger generation, right? And accept that, hey, you might not be a lot older than some of these people, but in experience, you are tenfold, right? You're way ahead of everybody. So bringing myself back to, you know, a situation, Vibe Fest, this is a great example of me accepting my role and also allowing others to do their role, right? Like we were using my sound system for the most part. You brought your speakers and ran the monitors and everything, but I didn't necessarily go, "Hey, it's my stuff, like I'm going to run your board and do all of these things," right? I didn't want to do that. That's not what I was hired to do. I don't mind that you're using my sound system. Of course, we had some conversations ahead of time, you know, before the festival actually started, of how I like to run my things so that we don't cause any damage to our equipment, right? But past that, you need to be free to go out and make some mistakes or make some at least decisions on your own, or you're never going to learn it, right? Like me just telling you this is how it's done isn't really going to advance your career and your knowledge. All I can do, and the way that I prefer to teach, is to, this is how I've been shown how to do it, because I didn't really learn any of this necessarily on my own. Most of the time, someone showed me how they do it, and I went, okay, I'll use it, I'll do it that way. And if I don't like it, then I'll find my own way of doing it. And that's a lot of what I brought to the table, you know, a few weekends ago now is, "Hey, Willie, this is how I've done it. It's always worked for me. This is how I would address this problem. This is how I would adjust this. You know, I would do this one differently than this one. I would do things differently for a bass or for drums differently than I would for a guitar or a vocal, but not necessarily coming to you and going, this is how it's done. This is the only way that it's done. And you have to do it this way." I just I don't believe in that way of teaching. I would much rather you get around to, this is the way that it's done because I've done it the other ways and it didn't work.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, you know, You allowed me to make mistakes wholeheartedly. I mean, and I own that. And that's part of, as a musician, someone in the sound in the music industry. I won't say a musician, but someone that's in the music industry where you got to own that. Yeah, you may have been showing me, and I mean, it takes integrity because, and there was one song that I did kind of have the vocals a little quiet. But once I got out there and I was like, hey, this don't sound right. And then I was able to come to you, hey Bubba, how do I adjust this, or how do I adjust this? Because, and I'm noticing now some of the biggest struggle as in the sound industry, in the music industry, is where your sound booth is set up. Like, it is really hard, and I did not realize until Vibe Fest, when it's directly beside the stage, especially when your monitor speakers are loud, how hard it is to gauge how loud it is out in the audience.
You had no idea. You had no idea from that position that you were in what it sounded like out front. Now, we were fortunate enough that we kind of had things dialed in pretty well, that there wasn't huge adjustments from act to act, right?
Right.
But you have to either, one, have a teammate that you trust that's out there being your ears, or you're going to have to get up off your ass and go out into the crowd, make sure
exactly
it good. Take notes if you have to, having a notebook or something to say, hey, like, oh, that's a little rough. That's a little rough. But then also having the knowledge when you get back behind the board, you don't just, it's not always turning everything up. Sometimes what it calls for is bringing the rest of things down around something, right? To bring it out to the front, right?
Exactly.
You don't need the flower to necessarily grow taller than the weeds. Sometimes you just got to go chop the weeds down.
Exactly. I mean, and so I got a couple more questions for you. As an artist, what artist growing up probably had the most impact? Like, and I'm not talking people you knew directly. I'm talking like, for me, my love of music came from like Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, that kind of stuff. The heart they put into their music. So, what artist or band growing up did you kind of take your motivation from and say, hey, I kind of want to be like this. I kind of want to use a little bit of their style and make my own?
It's the Grateful Dead. There is no, I don't listen to as much of their music now because it's all so ingrained in here and in here that I don't necessarily need to. But that was always on in my house, right? It was always someone that I was a huge fan of. And beyond, like, it's easy to look at the Grateful Dead and be like, oh, that party tour culture. It to me, it was really cool to watch, individual songwriters, because they had so many that were always collaborating with one another, right? And always kind of creating music. And I think I continuing to find more and more out about that. But it was also the community that kind of enveloped the Grateful Dead, right? That whole kind of the Deadhead culture, right? Really drew me in. I was fortunate enough to see Jerry Garcia once before he passed away in 1995. It was in 1995, not long before another. I guess I saw them in 1991 or 92. My parents took me to a show, and vivid memories of seeing, up on the Jumbotron and I think it just deeply affected me, right? Like that moment had reverberations. That one concert, whether I remember it vividly or not, had reverberations through the rest of my whole life. It's given me a family, right? I mean, I carry the Bears on my arm for a reason, so that other Deadheads can identify me as family as well, right? That I don't necessarily look the part of a hippie every day, but I wanted people to see, like, hey, I'm family, right? I'm a safe space for the heads out there. Each one of these ones on my arm are representing one of my children, but it's kind of bringing both of my families together, because I would consider anyone in that culture to be family, right? And kind of growing up with that mentality has brought us to more communities like that, right? The motorcycle community is very much like that. growing up in Deadwood, South Dakota, right? It really clued me into like what I want. It wasn't just about, yes, it's music. It's about music, but it's about community. It's about having a family outside of that nuclear family that you can't choose. And I know, enough of your story to know that, that's probably a big reason why music is so important to you, because that nuclear family wasn't what it was. It wasn't a Leave It to Beaver kind of situation for either one of us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so you kind of hit my other question already, so I really don't have to ask it. So, like I said, I got these questions in my head, and I have no script for this, to be completely honest. I mean, I have an idea of questions I'm going to ask, but I can't tell you, like, this is where we're going to go with that. Because honestly, it's going to vary from the individual. And it's the same with music as a whole. I mean, and like you brought up Grateful Dead. I mean, I like Grateful Dead. I personally, I may not be like, know every one of their songs, but like you said, that band as a whole, they were able to bounce part of this song off of this member. So, they worked as a unit. And like you said, people do know them for that party era, but it's the way they collaborated. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that. So, I'm probably gonna get ready to wrap this up, Bubba. Is there any last things that you want to just kind of share about your struggle with music and all?
I mean, not so much about the struggle, but definitely wanted to shout out our nonprofit partner, Operation Combating Veterans Suicide. You can find them at oc-vs.com. Because that's our future, right? That's our community. We have now kind of, maybe not to the scale that the Grateful Dead ever did, right? But we have our own community now to serve. And, part of that are our veterans. And, I've never met a veteran that didn't absolutely love live music. And I think because of a lot of the things that we're talking about today, because of that struggle, because of the situations and experiences of a veteran, that, that they would, right? So it's really a great opportunity for me to bring my music community and the veteran community that I love so much, to bring them together and to make an actual difference in the world, right? We have big plans for what we're doing with the nonprofit and the goals that we aim to achieve, so that we can start to minimize the struggle, right? Like we're tired of watching people struggling. There's plenty of money in the world. We should be solving some of these problems. And I think what's unique about the Scene Projects, what's unique about OCVS and, Charlotte Rupp, is that we're not waiting for anyone else to come along and solve the problem. We are more than capable of solving it for ourselves. And, it's just going to take a lot of work. And like you said, we lead with our hearts. That's in every single thing that we do. We are heart led, and we're not going to stop. Like, we're so motivated to accomplish the mission that really has no end, right? So I will stay motivated and working my tail off till the day I take my final breath here in this realm. And we got a great team around us that's doing it too. So just want to encourage everyone to check out our nonprofit partner, oc-vs.com, and to go check out the Scene Projects. Thesceneprojects.com is where you can find all of our friends, right? That's where everyone is hanging out and sharing their stories and sharing their struggles, so we can all kind of get better together.
And Bubba, send me those links, and when I post this, I will put them links in my video, buddy. But again, if y'all ever down here in my neck of the woods and need some help with that veteran stuff, y'all just let me know. I will support it any way I can, buddy.
We're going to get it popping, buddy. Don't you worry.
All right, Bubba, I'm going to call that a wrap. And just remember how music impacts you. So when you go out there, you do your thing. Just keep doing what you're doing and putting your heart in there, into your music. And, one of these days, you're going to be one of them guys that Bubba Startz, he was my impact. The passion he had is what saved me. So just keep doing you, Bubba. Love you, buddy. Mad respect. And